Most of you by now know that I work at VIP Mortgage. A lot of you may not know why or how I got there. For us as LOs, we have a lot of options, and for me, VIP Mortgage was the perfect fit, the best place, in my opinion, to work. So if you have any questions about VIP Mortgage as an LO, or if you are a consumer and you're looking for a mortgage, you can reach out to me on social media, or you can reach out to anybody else that you may know at VIP Mortgage. And our website is vipmtginc.com. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Real Talk with Ryan Madrid. I'd like to thank VIP Mortgage for this awesome space here, and I'm swiveling. And thank you to Trey, my nephew over here, for doing the podcast engineering, and Trisha Madrid, his mother, and my sister for doing the podcast production, along with amongst a ton of other things that he does for us over at VIP Mortgage. So we've been having a long conversation off air. Well, it might be on air because Trey might have snuck that in a little bit, but we've gone into some real serious topics that maybe we'll get into a little bit today. So this podcast is not just real estate related. It's about people doing cool things in the community and people having, and willing to tell their real life struggles and their wins and their losses. And so this next guest is, a real special one because she is willing to do some of that stuff, and she's a very successful person in the real estate business. She is with Chicago Title, who we happen to use amongst others, but mostly.
Only.
Okay, right. All right. So, Crystle Mulzet, right? She has, I said that right?
Yeah, it's like mullet with a Z.
Yeah, that's what I thought. As it came out right, I was like, what?
You got it right the first time.
Mulzet.
Most people don't.
So she is with Chicago Title, and she has a unique situation where she's the only person that I know that has her own team in like the level that you are. So what's your, is it an account?
Yeah, business development manager.
Okay.
Development.
Right.
Sorry,
so she's created her own team called the Inspire Team.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know of anybody else in the community that does that. Do you?
No.
Okay.
To my knowledge,
Okay.
Again, if they're out there, I give them credit.
I asked around, actually.
Yeah.
You did?
I'm just curious, and nobody had ever heard of any such thing. So you were definitely a trailblazer.
So before we get into your past and everything, I just want to point this out. So in being a realtor or a mortgage guy or a title person, right? There's a lot of really cool people that are in those positions that all work for different companies. So it's super hard sometimes to find out, to find who you're going to work with, who you're going to partner with. And it's the same thing with us. Like, I've got a lot of friends that are in the mortgage business that don't work for us. They're great guys and girls. And so I have the same struggle sometimes with like the realtors that might use us and they might use them. And I'm like, it's cool. And then when we have to go pick a title partner, it's like, I've got lots of friends that do this as well. So sometimes it's like, how do we juggle it all, right? So it's kind of like you go back to who's providing the most value, right? And so, but you also still sprinkle in other things sometimes to help your friends. So I'm just throwing it out there because we did have Ryan Banovac on here before too.
He's a good dude.
And Braden Dennis, by the way, is a future guest too, is also a good buddy of mine.
Well, what's funny is that after Banovac was on, Crystle, you DM'd me.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And said, well, how have I not been on this show or something like that?
Yeah. I was kidding, but then I laid myself open for it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
well, and I think I told you this, but you were on our way back target list back in October.
Yeah.
When we were discussing
So,
this.
obviously Brian as well. And there's just a lot of people. So just want to throw that out there. Love everybody, but sometimes you got to use who you got to use. So let's dive a little bit into your past before we get into where we're at now in the present. So you're from Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay. So what part of Illinois are you from?
I'm from Orland Park, Illinois, so that's about 20 miles outside the city. I think we all say we're from Chicago. And I did go to college in the city,
right.
and I lived in the city when I moved to Arizona. But I think most people are from.
So where's
suburbs.
that? So
Southwest side of the city.
Southwest side.
So by birthright, I'm a Chicago Sox fan.
Okay.
By nature and having more fun, I'm also a Cubs fan. So,
Right.
but I'm not supposed to say those things to
I know.
like one or the other.
It's such a such a bad thing to be fans of, two teams, even though you're an adult, and they're mostly kids playing baseball now.
Yeah, right.
I always say
Compared to us, yeah.
Come on, guys.
I am a sports fan, so I root for both Chicago baseball teams. But I've been here for 15 years now, so I am a Cardinals season ticket holder for the first time.
Wow.
My son loves football, so I'm like a hybrid Chicago Bears fan because that's really tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Oh, yeah.
And a Cardinals fan.
So I had some friends that went to Nashville this weekend, and they said it was one of the funnest games they've ever been to.
I bet.
And didn't hurt that we did
Bachelor
party,
so
well.
Right? Wasn't Braden down there for a bachelor party? Or different guys?
Oh, Braden was down there as well for a bachelor party, but this was Justin Hodge, Mustard Moving Men, former guest, Michael Fletcher, Alex Kinley, future guest. These are just a bunch of our Ted Lyles. So yeah, they said it was super fun, but very human. So tell us about your childhood.
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. I'm like, where do you start? I mean, like, I think that a lot of us get so self-involved that, we think that our childhood was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Until you hear other people's stories. And I've heard stories that are like, walks in the park that, I thought I wished I would have had growing up. And I've heard stories that like make mine sound like a cakewalk, So mom and dad were divorced by the time my little brother was born. I was 2.5. So I think that, like that set things up. I was used to being an only child. I was not very nice to my brother. If he ever listens to this, I'm sorry. I wasn't excited about him. But my parents were also going through a divorce. So I think I associated, different with this new human.
And you were 2.5.
Yeah. Okay. Now that I have a 17.
Pretty young to like somebody already.
You know what I mean? But I really didn't like my brother, and now we have a great relationship. I'm super.
Cool.
We're exactly 2.5 years apart.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a change, and my parents were actively divorcing while my brother was coming into the world. My mom and dad both struggled with alcoholism. My mom, as far as I remember, got sober when I was 2 years old. So I grew up in a household where my mom was a bartender that was sober. So she would go out and, she worked at like the Studio 54 of Chicago. It's called Faces on Rush Street. And that was like her claim to fame. She did like this high level bartending, but never drank. So like when high school came around and everybody wanted to like steal liquor from their parents, I was like, I felt different, maybe for the first time. Like, why is my mom not drinking? I don't think I ever really conceptualized the why behind it. And my dad was active in alcoholism and addiction until he died in a manageable way. My dad was definitely more manageable. My mom, I came to find out, was never manageable.
Right, okay.
But my dad, he came down with cancer when I was 15, and I think they gave him something like 6 months to live, and he was dead 6 weeks later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was like the first like real life.
Was he drinking though, even though he was in like AA? Was he off and on? So do you remember him drinking as a?
Oh, he never got sober. Dad never got
okay.
sober. He was just like I would make him a Stolian water while I drank his cold coffee. Like there was no sobriety there.
Right.
Yeah. My mom, however, part of why they split, I think they drank together a lot. So my mom got sober when I was between 2 and 3 there, and she was sober for 14 years growing up. I didn't see her take a drink until I was 17. But I mean, the rest of it is the rest of it. I have a 10-year-old now that's about to start going into like middle school, and I see him like going through like my friends sat at the lunch table and they didn't invite me. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff that we all went through. And, you know, I'm having to give him the real life talks that are like, next week you're going to sit at the lunch table and you're not going to invite so-and-so. And, you know, this is life, and it ebbs and flows, and this too shall pass.
So when you were in high school, did you drink?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. And I can say honestly, and I share this often with, you know, today I'm sober, so I sponsor people and I speak at meetings and things like that, and I share that often. I don't remember like when the first time I took a drink was, but I definitely remember when drinking changed for me. And that was directly correlated to my father passing away, where that became more of a solution, because I don't like feelings. Like I'm really good at like doing things to not have the feelings. So I spent a good long while avoiding feelings.
Okay.
In general.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you started drinking heavy through high school is what you're saying?
Oh
or?
yeah.
Okay.
And all kinds of other things.
Right. You started partying.
Yeah.
So would you drink like at school or before school? Like, were you drunk at school?
No,
or was it
not
on the weekends.
No, I mean, I think I took my GED. I think I took that, or not the GED, the
SATs?
SAT thing. They call it something else.
ACT?
That one. That thing I took drunk, and I didn't do very well. I did not do very well. But I had really good grades. I had really good grades, so it didn't really matter. And I got into the school that I wanted to go to. So for a long time, I graduated high school early. I ended up graduating college early. So to the outside appearances, for a long time, my drinking was manageable. And I moved to the city of Chicago, and I remember Old Town here back in the day. But the city of Chicago is a different animal. And the bars are open until 5 o'clock in the morning, and there's bars that open when those bars close. And I really fell in love in college with the whole scene, if you will, like the whole allure of, you know, knowing the guy at the door and getting in and being, you know, at this place on Tuesdays and this place on Thursdays. But
it's fun. That's why.
It was fun. You know, I heard a speaker in AA once say, like, there was fun with problems, and then there was just problems. And that was true of the progression of my drinking career. You know, like, if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't have done it. You know, the problem with me was not that I drank every day. It was once I started drinking, I don't know, like, if it's going to be a couple of hours of drinking wine, or if I'm going to like end up in a different state in 2 days, you know what I mean? That was the kind of drinking. So I was definitely more of like a binge drinker. But during those periods of time, like if I had a job, wasn't going to the job. You know what I mean? If I had a commitment with my family, wasn't showing up for that. That was, you know, the problem.
But you were had been functioning because you went to college and you graduated. You went to University of Illinois. In Chicago, right? And then you got an MBA as well.
Was
here.
That later, that was here, sober.
At that point.
Okay, so in college, you were able to get through college and graduate early, and still be like just partying constantly.
And I had the same job all through college. I worked in retail. That's where I got my feet wet in sales. I've been in sales ever since. And I had the same job for 4 years in college. And basically the relationship I was in ended. My job, like my internship, I was doing an internship with that ended. So I'm like out on my own, and college ended. So that was like a huge part of my identity. And I really didn't know like who I was anymore. I think like the fact that we expect children, and I call them children intentionally, to like know what to do with life at 21 years old is kind of preposterous.
Trey's right here. I have this conversation with this kid all the time.
I'm like, I
don't trying to figure it out.
I'm like, I think it was like 30 that I figured it out, and I was sober. I got sober young, but really from that's 21 to 24 is when like the jobs didn't last for more than 2 months. I always was able to get jobs. My credentials were good. I was presentable when I wanted to be. But then again, I would, make some money, feel a little bit better, go back to my old stomping grounds, and again, go to Miami for the weekend and call my boss and say, hey, I'm not coming home because I want to stay here and party. And I really didn't care. And that happened until like there wasn't any money left. There wasn't any more free places to stay, and like the gig was up. Like people were on to me. Like my friends were like, you're getting sloppy. You're kind of a liability at this point. Like, we don't want to go to the nightclubs with you.
Right.
You guys, the girl. There's a girl. She should probably join me on the sober side of things. But like, there's a girl. We all know them. I'm proud to say that I was once one of those girls. I am no longer, and haven't been in a long time.
So were you in Phoenix or in Scottsdale already when you became sober, or were you still in Chicago?
I started my sobriety journey in Illinois, but when I talk about that, and again, I try to honor the anonymity of programs, but also give it respect where it's due. So when I love seeing like the depiction of sobriety in like today's media, like the somber, like it's really depressing and all of that kind of thing, So when I started in Illinois in the small suburbs, so basically my family took my keys to my car, my keys to the place that I lived at the time, and, said, you're going to these meetings with these people. So it was not my choice the first time. It was very much forced upon me, but I was also like broke, tired, looked beat up. People didn't really want to hang out with me anymore. So I jumped on that bandwagon, but it was very much like Dunkin' Donuts and coffee and that kind of thing there. And, people that were a lot older than me that I couldn't relate with. I did run into like a couple of people I went to high school with there. So like that was the beginning of it for me. But I would be lying to say that I stayed sober. I definitely like dabbled because I was 23 years old when I first started like thinking maybe the way that I drink and use other substances is not normal. I don't know if it's ever normal, but that's another discussion. And I got sober right before my 25th birthday. So that tells you there was like 2 years of like I really struggled with. Like, what does that mean for me if I can't go out to the nightclub and, wear the outfit and hang with the people and they can see me and we can take the picture and it can be on the website. And you know what I mean? What does that mean? Like, I really identified with that, which seems so silly to me now. But I couldn't imagine being a 24-year-old, 25-year-old and not having alcohol to bond with people over, and then, I came out here on like an idea. That's what's nice about being 24. You can have an idea on a Friday and on Monday you live in Arizona, because there's like I said, no job, no ties, no nothing. And I was like, you know what, maybe I need some more serotonin. I can get some sun. It's really gloomy here in Illinois. It's cold. Like if I just live in a different place, it will be different. And I was loaded at, what was that bar? Six. Six. Remember Six? I was loaded there 24 hours after I got here. But luckily I had been put in touch with some other sober people before I left, because I think I had like 30 days sober when I got here. There was no 31 days of sobriety at that time. And I was able to connect with people so that like when things got bad, because now I'm here by myself and I've got nobody to pick me up when I make bad decisions. Like nobody lives here, right? My grandparents have a house in Fountain Hills, but they're snowbirds, so they come here very intermittently. So it was like, now you're just in this desert with a bunch of people that don't care about you and going out to all of these places, but I'm still the girl that's a liability, right? So people had very little interest in getting to know me long term. When I presented in such a manner.
So did part of the reason you pick Arizona or Phoenix specifically because you wanted to kind of reinvent yourself and you were trying to run away from like the ghosts of, the people who...
Oh yeah. It was like the
Clean
ex's
slate.
fault, the family's fault, like all of the things. It was everybody else's fault. And if I just lived in like a sunny new place, things would be different. And I remember driving down or up the 101. And being like, oh my gosh, so excited to be in like a new environment, new place, new people. Look how beautiful. There's mountains. We don't have mountains in Illinois. There's the sunsets are spectacular. And thinking like this is really a new start. And like not even 2 weeks later, driving down that same freeway and everything just looked gloomy because it was like I was still up from the night before driving, doing that drive. And I'm like, do we swear on here?
Yeah, you can.
I'm like, I just almost caught myself. How do I screw this up?
Yeah.
How did I screw this up in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what we do. And at this point, my mother, like I said, I'm 24, so my mom started drinking. She started dating somebody that had a bunch of money and was like, I can drink champagne on a yacht. So what's going on kind of like in a inverse relationship, if you will, is my mother is kind of unraveling. And one of like the points of my bottom was going out to Vegas to meet my mother. And again, I had like gathered like 30 days of sobriety. And I was kicked out of the Celine Dion concert for being intoxicated. I'm actually going back there next month and seeing Lady Gaga. So hopefully like all goes well there. But partying hard, and I'll leave it at that, with my own mother. We went from mom being sober to mom like intervening daughter to now like we're at it together.
Oh, boy.
And I actually said that I had the flu and stayed in Vegas. I won a bunch of money. I don't know how because I don't remember it.
Right.
And I stayed in Vegas for like an extra week after she left and told my mom I couldn't leave because I was so sick. Which
An extra week.
in Vegas by yourself.
That's-
So like this is kind of
Yeah.
like the way, like just a
Yeah.
snapshot of how I did life.
Yeah.
Wasn't really sustainable.
Yeah. No. Did your mom come back and get sober? Or did that affect like the two of you, like seeing each other, like wasted, like make you like not want to be like messed up?
Yeah, it was definitely one of the low points.
Yeah.
When people are like low points. I mean, I subscribe to the belief, which is not mine, that like your bottom is when you stop digging. I didn't have a whole lot to lose because I never put a whole lot together. So it wasn't like I have this career to lose because what career was I able to build? Relationship, like what relationships did I really have? Losing money, like what money was I able to accumulate?
Right.
So it's easy to kind of like glaze that over. But when I look back at it, like that was like one of those times that like still to this day, when I think about like, you can still feel being there. It took me a long time to go back to Las Vegas. And now I go back for like Inman, which is funny.
Right. Right. And everybody's drinking and having fun.
Oh, we can talk about the real estate industry and drinking.
Oh, yeah. That's what it is. So was that the catalyst that made you go sober? Because you were 24, you went sober. How old were you when you finally went sober? 25?
It was right before my sobriety date's May 15th, 2007.
Okay.
And my birthday is June 14th.
Okay.
So it was
So
like
not far after that.
it was right before my 25th birthday.
Okay.
So call it 24, call it 25.
So did you have another like episode after Vegas where like, all right, this is it? Or you just like finally, do you want to tell us that one or not?
I'll leave that one off the
Okay.
record, but
Okay.
I will say that like, again, it's, like the things we say we'll never do, what I mean? Like, I'll never do this. I'll never treat my friends this way. I'll never, and I think normal people look at those things and don't do them. I think people that are afflicted with alcoholism, addiction, whatever you want to call it, like scratch that one off and then like make a new bottom, that's like, well, I
Yeah.
did that one,
Yeah.
but I'm never gonna do this one.
Right.
And like that's what I'll equate like
Mm-hmm.
my process of getting sober like was just like, you know, scratching like that off
Right.
the list because it was in pen.
Right.
And then
right.
writing
Erase it.
Yes. And scratching a new one in
Mm-hmm.
there. So we got there, and luckily, like I said, I was plugged in to some sober people here, and there's like a tremendous population of young people that are in recovery here. And they taught me how to have fun and feel normal and taught me that I can do the things. I can go to Las Vegas if I want to go to Las Vegas. You know what I
Right.
mean? I didn't have to, you know, like wear bubble wrap,
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
In life in order to stay sober. You know, and there was definitely like a self-discovery process involved in that. You know, people call it the steps. And there were meetings involved in that. And, you know, that's something that I still practice today.
So when it comes to like dating and stuff, do you have to find sober people, or did you have to find sober people to date, or like how does that work?
Very carefully.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good one. So my ex-husband, I met playing softball. So I was involved in like, you know, adult softball. And he was not sober, not an alcoholic. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Not sober. And that's my son's father. We were together for the majority of recovery. As you can imagine, there are quite a few sick people that are in recovery,
Yeah.
that maybe have other issues,
Yep.
if you will.
Yeah.
So we dated for a while, and then Mason came along. My son's 10 now, and I decided that I still wanted to, you know, be part of recovery and do the sobriety thing. And I think there was maybe a difference of opinion in terms of like, hey, like, haven't you outgrown, you know, that?
Right.
Like, let's just focus on being a mom because
Yeah.
it's not convenient to like help other people and go to meetings and, you know,
Right.
do these things when you have a newborn, which I kind of have. Well, she's 17 months, but
Yeah.
I'm doing it all over again. And yes, my husband is sober. So yes,
Gotcha.
I think it's really just a matter of preference. Some people prefer to not date other people that are afflicted with the same disease because, like I said,
Yeah.
there's usually like we get down to causes and conditions, right? So it wasn't the alcohol for me that was the problem. It was the problems that I was trying to avoid with the alcohol that were the problems,
Right.
you know. And a lot of people don't want to look at those because they're painful.
Right.
I mean, who likes to talk about that kind of stuff, you
Right.
know? I'm having like a new, you know, layer of that in recovery, in sobriety, you know, at 14 years sober. So
Do you have to do therapy during this whole time too, or is like, I don't want to say,
Are the meetings therapeutic?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, is that all you were doing, or does people,
it depends. There are different layers at different times. Like I kind of became what I love about recovery and what I love about like self-help, and whether it's a book, a therapist, a meeting, a podcast,
Yeah.
is that like even still, I was just saying this to one of the girls that I sponsor the other day. I'm like, what I love about this is not that like I'm struggling to not drink today. But what I love most is that 2 years ago, I thought I was the best version of myself, like on a cellular level, right? Like the way that I treat people when nobody's looking type
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah.
That I could be. And then you fast forward 2 years and continue to do, whether it's therapy that year, or I've done EMDR therapy, you know what I mean? Like there's been a Reiki, I've done all of the things.
Yeah.
You know, and you fast forward 2 years and you're like, oh my God, I was a piece of shit 2 years ago. You know what I mean? I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. But like, it's not that was doing anything wrong 2 years ago. It was the best I had. It was the best. It was the best version of me. And that's what's cool about like the evolution of self is it doesn't ever have to stop. I look forward to the version of me that I get to be in 2 years, you know? And then I go back and the program has taught me to go back and make amends for the shitty person that I acted like a few times 2 years ago, you
Right.
know?
I saw something the other day that said, you know, you can invest in Bitcoin, you can invest in mutual funds, you can invest in stocks, and you can invest in real estate, but none of them are more profitable than investing in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You spend all your money on yourself. That's what you should be doing. Make yourself better, then everything else will come to fruition, so to speak. So what did your mom stay in Illinois, or did she move out here?
Yeah, she was out there and went like, even as, again, we have like the star-crossed path. So she, at the beginning of her drinking again, she was still like more manageable on the outside. I got sober and she kind of devolved. And I always say that having my mother in my life the way that she was is both a blessing and a curse, right? Because on the downside, I don't really have a mother in the sense that you would, consider like a mom that you like call to like ask for life advice.
Right.
On the flip side, she gave me like the best life advice I could have asked for, because I saw like my genetics in full motion, because now people, like when we sit here, it's a logical question that somebody would come to me and say, your life looks pretty normal, like, do you think it was a phase? Do you think maybe like now you've outgrown it? You can have a glass of wine with Ryan after your podcast. And because of what I witnessed in my mother, I can confidently say, like, I don't want to find out,
Right.
I heard somebody else say that a long time ago, and I've seen people that have gotten sober as young as 15 and are still not drinking, because like the life that I've been able to build, like you're talking about, like that investment in self internally and externally too. I think you build the internal, like you're talking about, and the external follows. I'm not willing to give up, so like, sure, maybe I could have a couple drinks and nothing would happen, know, but maybe I would start on a path of destruction.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, have you gotten to the point though where you just enjoy it? You've done it for so long now that you enjoy your day and night and hanging around, like it's like where you're like watching people have drinks and you're like, I don't really care.
Oh, yeah. And I think what's interesting, especially in real estate, is the reactions that you get from other people about not drinking,
Negatively?
Just
like, oh.
Well, I think it's a whole range to answer your question.
Yeah.
I've seen a little bit of everything, but really it's almost like more uncomfortable for them that I'm not drinking than it is for me that they are, if that makes sense, because this has just been like the way that I do life for a really long time. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, do you mind if I have one of these while you're here? And I mean, like, I'll get a mocktail or a Diet Coke or an energy drink, depending on like where I'm at in the day.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And I'm cool. And when I'm not cool, like when people start getting sloppy, then I'm like, I'm just not interested. You know what I mean? Totally. Like, we're not having any kind of meaningful connection or communication at this point, and you're not even.
Well, that's ugly if even if you are a drinker and somebody else is getting sloppy.
Right. I'm like, you're not going to remember that I left anyway.
Not good. Yeah, I know, it's funny. Like, I have friends that are sober too, but they drink soda water to make it with the cubes to make it look like they're drinking like a vodka soda or something like that, because they're like, dude, I just don't even want to talk about it. Yeah. Like, I don't even have the conversation. When people asking me why I'm not drinking, I'm just I just pretend that I am.
Yeah.
But I'm
no,
really
it's
not.
Totally true. That's
So
been
it
my
makes
experience.
Things easier and more comfortable. Excuse me. I need a drink of water.
Of water. Just water.
So clever, right?
Like
nice recovery. I like that. I can dig it.
So then what's the situation with your mom now?
My mom passed away in November. She passed away sober. She was 2 years sober. And I just went in August because of COVID to do like a celebration of life. Her birthday was in August. It's interesting in general to have somebody pass away during this whole crazy thing. That's like a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day.
We've got like 4 to do.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. What's really cool is I've literally gotten to live like at least 2 different lives, maybe 4.
Yeah.
All in one, So I haven't missed much on this trip, here.
Yeah, no. Hey,
You know,
you've
on
done
both
it.
sides
You've
of the
done it.
spectrum. You know, my mom and I posted this on social media. My mom and I weren't talking because she was sick. You know, and just yesterday I saved this for your podcast. I was talking to my husband because and we'll bring some real estate in here. You know, the real estate market is like feeling a little shift. I don't know if you feel it on the mortgage side of things. And like, I've just become like, I've worked, the addiction part of me comes in and it comes out in work, shopping, working out, you know, like they're much more socially acceptable ways of addiction. And it hit me yesterday because we've been on this trajectory for a while in the real estate market, right? Where it's like, everything's good. We're killing it. Let's celebrate. Let's do this. Like,
let's buy more stuff.
Yeah. Look how good everybody's doing. Right. And like the numbers are down a little bit right now, which I haven't seen. It's just been like, we're up. And it hit me like how, dependent is that the right word, or like how much I've been getting out of being successful in this space, and how much of me I've been putting into that. Putting into that, and I haven't really dealt with this whole issue. So I'm bringing it back to my mom. I'm answering your question, you know. And I said, like, this is the difference between me then, or me even 2 years ago, and the me today. Was I called my husband and I was like, hey, I just had all of these realizations. Like, you know, my mom died. I have no living parents, if you haven't added that together, you know, like
we're in the same boat.
That's weird sometimes, you know, like I have a 17-month-old daughter and I'm like, sometimes we want to go to Vegas. We're going to Inman. I'm going to Inman. And then my husband he's like, let's have like, go see a show, you know? And I'm like, well, who do we have watch? Yeah. I don't have like call mom and watch the baby. Oh wait, call dad. Oh wait, can't do that either. Yeah. You know, and that's been a huge source of motivation for me in terms of like, if I don't pay the bills, now my husband, he provides, I need to give that caveat, but like before when I was a single parent and things like that, if I didn't provide, there was no, like, even when mom was around, there was no mom to call and replace the tire, you know what I mean? It was mom calling me to replace the tire. And that was our relationship for a really long time. So my mom and I, to make a long story short, didn't speak for a year before she passed away. And it was she was an unhealthy person, but it was sudden the way that she passed away. So I had the realization yesterday that I'm like, I probably need to do some therapy because like, I just don't really, like there's something blocking it. Like I don't want to deal with it. And August, you know, having her memorial, things like that, it was the start of, you know, like starting to look at that, because when somebody dies and they live in another state and you can't go visit them, you can't go to the hospital. It's like, well, they've lived in another state for 15 years, you know,
like it didn't even happen in a way.
Kind of. I mean, I don't want to sound insensitive. It was my mother,
I get it.
But I think there's a mourning process of like, I mourn the mother I had because I had a sober mom for the majority of my childhood. And she was a single working mom with 3 kids. She provided for us. She did great things for us. There were great memories from childhood. And there were times where she really came to my aid and rescue. There was a really tumultuous time when I was sober and she was not. And then there was a really ambiguous time when she was like, trying to get sober again, but nobody really knew, like, is she sober, is she not sober, like that kind of thing, where there was a lot of dependency. And now I have a kid going on 2 kids, and you know, there was one time I remember my mom got a couple of DUIs and ended up in jail, and it was like the week before Christmas, and I like was at a different place in my career. I had a 5-year-old, you know, he's 10 now, this 6 years ago. And my mom called me and wanted me to bail her out of jail. And I'm like, I can either give my son like an amazing Christmas or I can bail my mom out of jail. And like, nobody wants their mom to be in jail. But at that time, because she was making such bad decisions in her life, my thought process was like, A, I'd choose my son, but B, she's got like a warm place to sleep and a meal, you know, like I know she's safe there for now. But to like my mom, because she was so in her disease at the time, her daughter just wouldn't bail her out of
Right.
jail when I
Right.
could. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there were, and I mean, I can go into.
I think I've heard that the version of that story flip-flopped so many different times.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's like you're going, okay, what's the best thing for them?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
probably
you
just to
also have
stay
to
there for
there's
after a while.
self-preservation too, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
got you got to
Yeah.
choose between your kid's Christmas and your mom, but it also takes such a big toll on the sober person, right? I mean, it's the
Sure.
point where it's like, okay, this has been perpetuating for so long with no obvious pivot. So at some point, you just kind of have to, you know what? I choose me.
Yeah, and you know that whole there's so much talk about it right now, like being selfish and self-love and taking care of self, and that's what I probably have to go to a therapist and talk about. That's not for your conversation, is like there is guilt there because like my mom would beg me to come live in my house with me, and I'm like, you're an unhealthy human being, and I have one going on 2 small children and a marriage that I'm trying to keep happy. Like that's just a disaster waiting to happen. Like you can definitely move to Arizona. Like I'll buy your ticket. But you can't live with me. And like, that was the only solution. So that was like a perpetual argument and point of contention with us. And now in hindsight, no matter how healthy you are, when somebody passes away like that was a single mother that gave me, what she could, when she could, I'd be lying to say that there's not like an underlying guilt for not having done more.
Yeah. For sure.
But I think we do the best we can at the time with the information we had. If I knew she was going to, escalate and get sicker, then maybe there was something else I could have done. That's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Did she die of alcohol-related issues?
She wasn't healthy, so she had COPD, heavy smoker. Which I've struggled with over the years myself. Grew up with 2 smokers. So not today. She had COPD. She had pulmonary hypertension. So basically her heart and her lungs were going to fail. She was living in a state-funded assisted living, which was not a very nice place. I did go visit her like a year and a half before she passed away. It was not great.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I could go investigate further. But suddenly, we got a call and they said, she needs to be on a ventilator. Her heart and lungs are failing. And about 12 hours later, we got another call, So directly, no. But I don't think that her choices,
She wasn't healthy.
Yes, she wasn't healthy as a result of many years of abuse of different substances.
Well, I think, regardless if you were an addict or not, if you're away from your parents for a long period of time and they're dealing with their own stuff, and no matter what, it's going to be a difficult struggle once they pass. And if it's not, then you don't have really a heart.
Yeah.
So people are gonna have to dig deep into themselves, and that's what therapy's for.
Yeah.
It works. So.
No, but that's like the solution today is like, that's what I called. I'm like, I probably need to go back and do some therapy stuff around like this whole issue with not having parents. I'm like, I've been working it away. I've been shopping it away. And my husband's like, I'm really glad you came to this conclusion on your own. Like,
because you have enough shoes.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
And the baby has enough clothes. Trust me, she does.
She doesn't need to wear something new every day.
Or like 3 outfits per day.
Right.
Yeah, that's a different.
All right. So well, then let's move.
Can I ask a rapid fire question?
Sure.
So, do you have a favorite book or author or a favorite quote or anything that you kind of?
I'm a big
for
Marianne Williamson fan. A Return to Love really changed my view on spirituality. It was the first time that I could I'm not a religious person, but it was the first time that I could grasp I can apply these spiritual principles to my life, and try to be a good human, and try to forgive people. There's a lot of principles like that in there. Most recently, I really like Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed.
Oh, I love that book so much.
Such a good book. I need to read
good.
that again. I read that as I was having right before I had Aspen, and I had my daughter April 10th, right in the eye of total lockdown. And I don't think I would have like been as well mentally with all of that if I hadn't been like actively reading her book. So those are two that come to mind. But like I go through like self-help binges, and then I go through times where I don't read at all. And then I go through times where I'll read like 3 fiction books out of nowhere.
It's nice every once in a while, right? To just check out and read a novel.
Yeah.
I don't read for pleasure enough because I'm like you. I'm all about, self-help and business books and all that. And cracking open just a kind of fluffy piece of fiction.
Oh yeah, there was a
do
time where
wonders.
like I rapid fired through all like the Twilight books and loved it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I need another one of like those, where it's just like good, clean
We can talk after the show.
entertainment.
Go for it.
I definitely am due and am open to some fiction reads.
That's her gig, not mine. All right, so let's move into your title business and like how you got into the business and like how did this happen? Because you've had a ton of success, obviously, and I want to know about the Inspire situation. So you started with you didn't start with Chicago.
No, I worked for startups before I got here. So I worked for the same company for 9 years. Got recruited by another company. I won't go through all the details.
Yep.
Fast forward. Very loyal person, like very like security, like knowing where my next paycheck comes from for all the reasons we just talked about at length, right? And moved to this company. I'm there for 9 months. They lay everybody off, walk everybody out on a Friday.
Yeah.
Never,
I remember that.
Yeah. You've heard of it. And it was like the startup that cannot fail. They came knocking on my door. I was like, devastated. I'm a single parent. What do? I just need a job, right? Like, and nobody was giving jobs because everybody that did what I did, because I was a sales manager, managing inside salespeople. Everybody that was a sales manager was looking for a job at the same time.
Right.
So it was like lines of people I knew walking into interviews. So I snatched up a job with a new startup that had just moved here out of San Francisco. Jump in with them, build out their office from the ground up, hire another team in the office, and get a call. Well, I'm literally in the Grand Canyon saying, we've decided to close your office. Today's your last day, even though I was on vacation. And
Right.
I'm like, so this was like 6 or 9 months later. And I'm like, what in the what? Like, I've been with the same company long term, made this leap. What universe?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
You got burned on that one.
Yeah. And again, it was right around Christmas time. So people aren't like actively hiring, but I need a paycheck because I'm a single parent.
Yeah.
And, I'm flipping through, I think it was LinkedIn I found it on, or they found me. They loved my background and they're like, you'd be great in Title and Escrow. And I owned a home at the time. I had no idea what Title and Escrow was like, no idea. I had to like YouTube it. I don't know that I fully still understand.
That was actually one of my questions that I forgot to ask Ryan Banovac, because I think there are a lot of realtors who don't really understand the difference.
Between Title and Escrow?
Yeah.
Well, escrow is what you pay for to manage the temporary bank account that facilitates the transfer of funds to, pay off HOAs, pay for home warranties, and all of the things.
Yeah.
Make sure your previous loan is paid off, if you're selling a home so that you can get your monies. We give realtors their paychecks. We give sellers their,
Funds.
Most of the time they're happy with us on that end. And then the title insurance space is, it's insurance, I say that like this, like nobody likes it, but you have to pay for it to make sure that, your home actually belongs to you and the deed is insured. So.
Right. Okay.
It's not the sexiest business. I'll put it out there. But I don't deal with a whole lot of it on my side of it. So I give my escrow officers all of the credit because part of my success is because I work with such rock star escrow officers. I think you know them.
Yep.
they've been around for a long time, and they keep my clients happy on the back end, which has really been able to like make these compound business effects happen. Because I was told when you got into the business, there's a certain threshold where like you can't do more than this much business. Like it's just impossible. Your service level is going to go down. Your escrow officers are going to lose business, you know, that kind of thing. People aren't going to be happy with them. Mistakes will happen.
Right.
You're going to lose business, and hasn't happened yet.
Well, the ones you work with, though, they work a lot.
Yeah, they do. I mean, like I said, I give them, they're the real MVPs.
Yeah, and they're willing to take it, you know, they're willing to take everything and do all of it and do it well. So, so you left that company after you didn't leave. They let you leave.
Yeah, no, I've never been fired sober, but it kind of felt like I was being fired sober, you know, and I was doing my job. I was doing a good job. My numbers were good. So it was a very awkward place. So I snatched up this job. They were convinced that I'd be like the next Title and Escrow rock star. They were out of Seattle. They were a tech-based title company, and I literally started in this business, and I say this to the girls that have worked for me. I literally started with a CRM, and it was organized by production, realtors production, and we had to cold call them. And if you've ever cold called realtors,
I hate doing that.
it is not a good time, and I had no idea what I was doing. At the same time, you know. Right. So I very quickly pivoted because it was less ego blowing, I guess, to DM people on Facebook.
Absolutely.
And stalk them, and they see your messages so that they kind of feel more obligated to respond. So I started like layering that into my approach, not even knowing that there's like 150 title companies in town, and other people are teaching people how to do this and any of that. Like that's how I started getting my first appointments. And the funny thing is, some of those real estate agents that I called when I was brand new are still clients of mine.
Yeah. That's how I started too. I literally started the same way. I went around and did a bunch of different things that I thought I should be doing, but in the meantime, I would just send messages via Facebook, and it seems like it worked well. And the same thing, I have tons of relationships still from that day. I still do that.
Yeah, same.
It works. I mean, it works. So
I have a question. So since you have an MBA, and did you find that what you were just talking about with the DMs just instinctual, or do you learn like proper ways like handle digital marketing or social media management?
I have a marketing degree, but I'm going to age myself because it's from, I think it's dated 2004, but I was done in 2003.
Okay, so pre-Facebook.
Yeah. So there
wasn't sending.
Yeah, there was no Facebook. I think AOL. Remember what was that?
MySpace.
There was MySpace, but there was like the classroom that you took college in. That was like.
Yeah.
Blackboard or
yes, I think it is.
Is it Blackboard? Yeah. That's like the days that I went to college. So like to say like, yes, I have a marketing degree, but I had to relearn everything I was taught because we literally had a whole segment in college on guerrilla marketing. You know what I mean? Like it's like a totally different ballgame. And yes, I had, my MBA was 2010, but still so much has changed in 11 years, you know? So I kind of, I guess, intuitively to your point, kind of stumbled on it. You know, I manage salespeople. So for a long time, I didn't know if I was going to be able to sell again because I had been leading salespeople for a very long time. But the good news is I always encourage people my husband, just started managing in sales. And I'm like, the best advice I can give you is never stop selling. Yeah. Your people will respect you and follow you regardless if they've been with the company longer, and it lent itself very nicely into the title space because, as you know, we end up managing like many salespeople. That's what realtors are, as salespeople. And it just kind of took off. And then I ran into my boss in a real estate office here locally, and I kind of wedged my foot in the door there. He wasn't super happy about it, and started asking me questions, asking me to go to coffee. And I was like, why do you want to go to coffee with me? You're my competitor. And luckily, I said no to him several times. And eventually, we came to an agreement for me to move over to Chicago. I'm coming up on my 4 years there in October. And that really just gave me a platform in the education to do this job right, like all around. But I mean, still there was a learning curve, you know what I mean? That's my one obvious area of opportunity is I'm not like a title and escrow pro. I'm just a very seasoned sales and marketing person.
Yeah, but your job isn't to be that. And I think that it is good to understand, but your job is to find the business so your team can do it in an effective manner and better than everybody else. That's kind of what we say here. It's like, you have to become the CEO of your business.
Yeah.
And your job is now you own the company, so even though you don't, and then everybody here, you have really, really, really incredible people that do the job that they're supposed to do, right? To make everybody happy. So I'm the full understand that you don't need to be an underwriter before you can do a mortgage.
Right.
That's not how it works. And realtors, they're just salespeople, right? Yeah. They have transaction coordinators, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Right. So, all right. So moving on from that, so you're at Chicago Title, and you're having quick success, or it took a little bit of time?
I think it was pretty quick. The business that I had, it was kind of like dynamite. It came together between the escrow team I was paired with, who the platform that I was given at Chicago Title, as well as what I had started to develop on my own. It really, and the market. I can't,
market's a big part of it.
Yeah, the market has been progressively better year over year. So probably 2 years into my business there, I was told, just so you know, this is the threshold. You can't do more business than this. Your service is going to go down. Realtors aren't going to like working with you. And I also have I have a child at home at this point, and I'm out at broker opens and everything else all night. And I'm like, I would like to sometimes be a parent, you know? So I made the decision. I went to Brian, my boss, and said, hey, what do you think about me hiring an assistant? And he said, cool, you can do that. You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I was, like, well, that's a natural step. I think that a lot of people get to in the real estate business is this seems like a lot of money to, take out of, my family's income and put over here. And what that really did was open up the door for me to do more of what I'm really good at. And it went so well that then I was also told, so then I was pregnant, I was having a baby, and I was told, just so you know, when you leave, people are going to leave you. When you go on maternity leave, they're going to go find other title reps because they just have monkey brains.
I hope this wasn't Brian telling you this, because if he needs to check himself.
No. I'm not saying
Just
this
kidding,
is
Brian.
right. No, not Brian. They're just some titleisms, if you will.
Yeah.
I was also told that people feel bad and then give you business when you come back.
Right.
And I don't know if it was COVID, having an assistant in place, what it was, but I took a full 12-week maternity leave, and I give my all to my realtors. So I felt it was very important to give my all to that time. COVID definitely threw me a bone because, everybody's hair wasn't on fire. There wasn't, outward open houses, that kind of thing. So I really got to enjoy that time. And I came back, and not only had we not lost business, but the business had grown.
Yeah.
And we hired somebody else to do more work. And as I'm growing this, people started, saying to me Crystle and company, Crystle and team, Crystle's people, Crystle's girls. And I had always been a team person, outside of here. I managed teams of up to 20 salespeople at any given time. And I was real clear that I didn't want it to be all about me. I'm like, what can I build that will enable people to find what they like to do? And want to be part of, but also model what I'm teaching or preaching to realtors. Realtors, when they get to a certain level, what do? They build a team.
Yeah, they outsource, they build a team.
Yeah, they build a team, they brand themselves, that kind of thing. So I'm very bad at hey, these are my strengths, what are the attributes that describe you? I'm like, I don't know.
So you hire a branding agency?
Yeah, so I hired a branding agency and went through that process, and they came back with the word inspire, and I was like, that's bold. That's a bold word. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know if I'm capable of that.
Yeah, I'm like, that's like kind of arrogant, you know what I mean? And so I was like hiding it for a little while, and I showed it to Brian, thinking Brian was going to say, it's got to be a Chicago title and it's got to have this. And he was like, as long as it has Chicago title on it, like, it looks great, like, run with it. And I was like counting on him to bail me out of like this is like kind of it was very uncomfortable for me. Like, what will people think of me putting out a brand and a team in the title space? Like, what does that even mean? And the
innovative, right?
But I still like, I'm aware that I care what other people think about me,
sure.
So we put it out there and built, an Instagram channel that is solely dedicated to giving realtors examples of like what you should be doing in the social media space. And it's been met with like great approval and feedback. And I hope that it's given, the girls, I wouldn't want to be part of something that's like, it's Trish's gig. I'm just here for the party. You know what I mean? Like the girls that work for me and have worked for me give a lot of themselves. And I thought
so do you still pay for all of them? Mm-hmm. Like out of your own pocket? So
the company splits a little bit of it, but yeah. So that's something that I think is, and my clients get the best possible service while I'm able to like take a vacation with my family and actually like turn my phone off, because anybody that has kids in this industry, like I have the kid that's like, Mom, do you think you can be on your phone less this weekend? And my heart just breaks into a million pieces, and I start looking at Disney World.
So
guilt.
So do they just manage, like, do they have like a certain, so you have 30 realtors, we're just saying. So do they split it in half and then they manage like what you've created for them, or do you still take a third, they take
No, I mean, we're all, I set the expectation with my clients when, they decide to become a Chicago title client, that like these are all extensions of the business, and like one individual will manage all of our print projects that we have going on, overseeing, the design of postcards and so on and so forth. Because it was getting to a place before I had hired anybody where I felt bad being in a meeting with a realtor, because I was having anxiety because I'm getting these requests and having to make sure that they're getting out so people don't think it's taking, 2 weeks to get a postcard done. So we've kind of segmented off what people, like and are good at. And that way it's, go to this place for this, go to this place for this. But if you hear from any of us, you're hearing from all of us kind of thing, and that's the approach that we've taken. And to my knowledge, at least not that I know, it hasn't offended anybody yet.
I mean, we have this similar approach.
It's the same, it's
like
the
we're
same way we do it.
And depending on what you need.
Because we all deserve that, like, why do we work so hard? I work really hard, and I say that to my son when he says these things to me, because like right now we're starting to get into like our busy season, as September, October, everybody wants to have events and whatnot. And I'm like, these are the times that like facilitate all of the other stuff we like to do throughout the year, So I work hard, but I also try to be really intentional in respecting, like, if somebody's off on my team, unless like the earth is on fire, like I don't want them bothered. And the same, like, not for me, because I'll work all day. Like I said, I'll avoid myself into oblivion. But my children and family deserve better, the better version of me. And I think we're all better human beings when we're unplugged for a period of time. So even on the weekends, I've started to like put my phone on the charger for long periods of time, and then come back to my phone and say, sorry, my phone was on the charger, which is a true statement. And it also forces me to have it over there, because again, if it's in front of me, I will just
Let me ask you an ignorant question. What would a realtor need you for on a weekend when you don't do the escrows or the title? What would they need you for? Like, what kind of emergency would they need? Or is it they just like call you because like, oh, I have an idea. I kind of think maybe I'll do, a postcard for 14,000 people. Can you help me with that? Or is that sort of stuff? Or
On a Sunday at 8
I'm not
p.m.
trying to be condescending. I just really don't know. Like, what would it be?
I think you would be surprised. I don't know that anybody need is a strong word.
Okay.
Want is a different word.
Gotcha.
I've gotten just about every request you can get. Most of the time, and it's the one that I like want to respond to because it actually involves like all of us getting paid, or like net sheets, and we have an app on our phone which is available to realtors, but some of them don't download.
Gotcha. So they want you to tell them what it is? Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's probably maybe 50% of the requests that I get on weekends. I think because realtors work around the clock, they just have their ideas on Saturday and pick up the phone and call and don't even think about it. I think that and again, I say to them, I work when you work, because there's a perception that I think, that's something that I'm very clear on our first meetings with realtors, is that title people are like paid a salary and we just have like this unlimited expense budget to pay for things for people, and like we get some kind of, like kickback for doing free things for them.
Right.
Like I'm very clear with realtors, like we get paid on the same day, know? So I am actively invested in activities that are going to generate you more escrows. Like let's close more escrows.
Right.
So
what
would you say is the most, so what activity you would do or suggest to an agent where they would get the most activity to close the most escrows? Like what is it?
I would say, and people don't like this answer because everybody wants, I think, the magical box of leads from like that you're hiding from them, that I'm hiding from them. There's this magical box in the sky that doesn't exist, is really to be intentional, consistent, and engaging on social media because it's free. Like the same way we were talking about Facebook messaging, thinking taking the time to time block and spend time not only just posting, a lot of people just post up, whatever pretty meme that they have seen for the day. Not that I don't do that sometimes, like as filler content, but really taking the time to message potential people that are buying or selling a home, because the truth is everybody is a prospect right now. Interest rates are low. People need to be educated. So taking the time, a lot of people for years, how long have we been talking about video?
Decade.
A long time.
Yeah. But still, I can't tell you how many top producing agents don't use video as a forum, to communicate with their audience, to educate their audience. I mean, you know this in lending, like money's never been cheaper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people are still choosing to throw their money out the window and rent. And I feel like that's the realtor's opportunity to capture.
So the realtor should go on Instagram and do a story telling everybody that, just the community, that rates are low. What does that mean? Yeah. So why would you rent when you can buy? Because it's this much cheaper to buy than it would be to rent.
Yeah, do a podcast. Do a
video.
podcast with you.
Right.
Compare rates, compare monthly payments. Obviously, you want to do that in compliance with your
Yes.
lender. With your lender, compliantly.
Can I pipe in? For people who are super camera averse, right? Especially, the younger ones might be a little more prone to want to get in front of the camera and more comfortable because they grew up with social media. What advice would you give to somebody who, isn't 27? Who's in their late 40s or early 50s, like it's different, right?
It definitely is. I was in a meeting with Chelsea Pites, who you guys may follow. Brian's.
She's like queen.
Yeah, she's the queen of social media. And she was talking about her friend, and I forget, I'm going to botch it. I forget what her name was and what state she lived in, but she was talking about how this woman who is in her 50s, I watched the TikToks, is now generating like 80% of her business based on her TikTok channels. And let me tell you, they're not like dancing TikToks.
Yeah.
They're like literally like, let me tell you about this home inspection today. Like, let me tell you about an appraisal gap. You know what I mean?
So she's educating.
She's educating. And like you choose your style and you stick to it. Like the answer of what social media platform do I use? all of them if you can. If not, pick one and just be really consistent and good at it, you know. I'm still guilty of avoiding video by taking videos of other things.
Me
And
too.
I give the excuse, like, I'm in Title. Nobody cares about Title. I need to, but I'll promote my agent's videos out here. So, I mean, I'm sure I could do more business with realtors if people got more of like this type of time with me.
Right. Let me tell you a funny story that just happened last night. So I've been watching, it's a reel on Instagram. Am I wrong? Right with that? Okay.
It's a reel.
But it's a TikTok. So you can move a TikTok video, right?
Yep.
This guy, it always starts with like his son going, "Hey, Dad, what are you making there?" He goes, "Oh, he makes a drink." So he's like big, like making these fancy drinks, right? And then it evolved into like, hey, Dad, what are you making there? And he's like, oh, I'm making this sandwich, and it's like super elaborate. If he's making a drink, he's like, he's smoking the glass, and this. Finally, like, I'm going through this whole thing, and the question was, hey, Dad, everybody wants to know what you do for a living. This whole time I thought he owned a bar or a restaurant. Big ass house in New Jersey. I do mortgages. I'm a mortgage banker. I've been a mortgage banker for 35 years. I'm going, oh my God. This whole time, he has like 7 million views on just making a drink. And he just really he has mortgages. And the only video in the whole, I watched all of them. Yeah. It was one time him sitting in front of a desk with like a pen and pad, old school. And he's like, yeah, I do mortgages. I've been doing mortgages for a long time. And da-da-da-da-da. But
and it didn't feel,
love it.
I thought he worked at a deli.
Hokey or anything like that.
Not at
like
all,
it was
because
still
they're great.
authentic and entertaining.
I'm gonna pull
we'll
this
put
guy
it.
up.
We'll put it in the
because
show
they're
notes.
good. All the videos. Have you seen these?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
I mean, he is like master.
Meticulous.
I'm gonna be like in like TikTok.
Yeah.
Trance later today.
Exactly.
I didn't want to use the word rabbit hole.
Right,
Then.
yeah,
I feel like I
exactly.
used that a few times. I was looking for a different one.
You said it. That's what I get. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You would think he's either a mixologist or like a cook, owns a restaurant or a deli. Because I mean, it's just like this. It's they're so good, but really just mortgage guy. Anyways, so
Can I?
we're probably
sorry,
got-
I'm
you've
interrupting,
been-
and I
this
know
is the
we're-
most she's ever talked in a
I feel
podcast,
like
by the way.
I had developed a social media relationship with Crystle like months and months ago because you are so good. You're always on, right? You're very kind. You always comment on our stuff. And so sorry, Ryan. I feel like I know her, even though I physically only like met her for the first time today. Can you talk a little bit about what you do with us in terms of like, you and Liz have a relationship and you partner with us on
I can
our Cromford report market updates. And
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think, like Ryan started the podcast by saying, I think we, it's a delicate balance that we have to have because I wish I could work with one lender. But we work in a volume business. I'm sure you guys wish maybe you could work with one title company. That's not always the case when you work with different realtors. Like we interact with all different kinds of people. And where I call Liz and the team and VIP a partner is because she provides the type of value that I pride myself on providing to my agents. And when we're able to get together with a mutual realtor, really cool things result. Like we have one agent in particular that I've known forever. He was a previous employee of mine. I adore him. Just like rapid fired into real estate, is doing great on his own, has a network for days, but like just isn't organized about anything, like no social media, like none of that. So Liz and I are working together with that agent to use my systems and VIP systems and do that lead generation to stay in front of, because like the truth is marketing, although I want to give myself all of the credit, 80% of it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If not more,
95%.
if not more.
95%.
But 70 to 80% of the realtor's business is going to come from their sphere and their repeat business. You guys have some amazing tools for that that are not title tools that I'm a huge fan and proponent for. And that coupled with social media, like I said, you asked the number one tool for that. What's the best way for me to stay in front of people that know, like, and trust me anyway? Like Trish just said. I met her through
Yeah.
social media, and I'll end with a story there. So a few weeks ago, I made the push. So again, I keep layering. Like, I want to lead by example. I don't want to tell you to go do lifestyle photos and then me never post photos. So I finally like pulled the trigger and got some of these photos done, and made a decision consciously to be like a lot more like authentic instead of just like have to posts. And I love real estate. I really do. Like, it's been the source of like my family securing a future in a couple of in a couple of different areas. So I shared my individual real estate journey from start to finish. I don't know if you saw this post.
I think that's around the time I reached out to you, because I like got a little like I was moved.
It was a true story. And even my husband that day was like, does everybody need to know all of your business about this? And, again, it's like you say that you own a property, and every realtor in town's like, why didn't you use me as your realtor? So I shared that, and I'm not kidding you. I had 3 people reach out to me. I am not a realtor, to ask me about investing in Airbnbs, interest rates, and purchasing a home, one was a seller selling a home, and they said, Crystle, I'm reaching out to you instead of a realtor because I trust you, and I don't say that to brag on myself. I'm 5 years into the career, and I'm just making this post to be fair.
Yeah.
So it took some time. But if that's not lead generation, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I say it, yes, it doesn't sound like this magical tool that, like you pay some money for and it spits you back some leads. But something so simple like that. And the more authentic I get, the more meaningful the relationships that I have with realtors are, we want to spend the days enjoying the people. Like, I could sit here all day. I enjoy you people. I trust you people. So I think that the more real we get using that platform, the more we're working with people we enjoy. Because, I'm sure you've worked with leads at one point. How fun are leads to work with once you have them?
That we don't want to work with leads.
You know what I mean? Like, a lead is like, everybody wants a lead. Everybody wants a lead until they have one.
Yeah. That's been the thorn in our side. Everybody wants us to, or used to. They want us to pitch in on leads, a lead generation system or of some sort, and we're so upside down on those things because they just don't work.
Well, and the realtors have to actually do something with all.
Yeah,
this.
and guess what? After they do something, they get like someone they send it to us, and like we have to be like, oh hey, and they're like, oh no, we don't want anything. The guy just gave us your number or gave you our number. So anyways, for some people they work, obviously they do business, but that's not 90% of the realtors don't get their business through that way. It's belly to belly relationships and all that sort of stuff. So
I'll put that specific post in the show notes because that was something that like made me want to reach out to you.
Oh, well, thank you. It was very uncomfortable for me. Like, I don't say it in a braggadocious way. It's just one of those things, again, where I'm like, everybody's telling me to do this. I don't really need to do this. Nobody cares about me. I work in title, and then I do it, and I'm like, these people are asking me for real estate advice. Yeah. These are leads. These are leads, people.
Yeah, they're leads. Well, thank you so much. This was really good. It was a lot of good information. I think it went well. And diving so deep into your personal stuff is awesome. That's what this is kind of for, really. So, but I think that the education that we got from just the title side or just how you run your business is just as important. So, again, thank you so much. Thank you to VIP Mortgage for having us here.
Thank you for having me.
It's awesome. You're welcome.
So glad to finally get you on the show.
I know we've been talking about it for a minute. So
there you go. Yeah, we're trying to book out still. So, but thanks, Trey. Appreciate it. He's over there listening and learning. And again, thank you, Trisha, for getting her here and all the things you do. So everybody, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Push the bell or whatever, click the bell. So you will get notified when we release a new podcast episode. And go to our social media, please. And like, comment, share, because we need people to grow our community, right? So after this, we're going to need you to get out
I will
of your
do all
comfort
of the
zone
things. I will do them
and,
all.
like,
Me
share it to
sharing
all
a
your
video,
friends.
I'm like, I try to like hide the videos. Like people
Yeah.
tag me in ones that I'm in, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just not going to share that. But I promise I'll share it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So again, we are a mortgage company here at VIP Mortgage, and we're the Crawford team. So please, if you have a refinance or a purchase, excuse me, please contact us. Contact me either on my cell or via social media because I am accessible there. And obviously, Crystle with Chicago Title, all you people out there, you realtors out there, use her for Title and Escrow. So again, thank you so much. Please watch this episode. We appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again. Real Talk is brought to you by Tsunami. We all know that we should be doing more videos than we are doing. And one of the hesitations for myself is that I don't feel like I do a very good job filming them. I get nervous about the way they're going to look. And I am pretty sure that most people feel the same way as I do. So Tsunami is a product that will allow you to film your own videos, and you can send those videos via the app that you can download it on the App Store. And they will make the video look professional because it is done by a professional editing team. So you want a header, you want a footer, you want to just look better in general. And for the cost, it's unbelievably inexpensive. So if you're looking for video help, this is the best way to go about doing it, especially if you want to film videos on your phone like we all should. So it's Tsunami with an X. And if you want to find them online, it's Tsunami with an X.net. XUNAMI.net.
VIP Mortgage Incorporated does business in accordance with the Federal Fair Lending Laws, NMLS ID 145502. For state-specific licensing, please visit www.vipmtginc.com/national-licenses/. VIP is not acting on behalf of or at the direction of the FHA, HUD, or the federal government. VIP is an equal housing lender.